SAE Institute. Estamos muy contentos de que estén aquí con nosotros. Como parte de la vinculación que queremos tener y que tenemos con la industria, en este momento estamos muy contentos de darle la bienvenida a Clarke. Estará hablándonos un poco sobre la parte de producción y lo que ha hecho, que es bastante precursor en el movimiento de la música electrónica, en el uso de sintetizadores analógicos. Esperemos que aprovechen todo lo que tiene que ofrecer para nosotros, que es bastante. Las preguntas las haremos al final. Tiene que irse a las 8 en punto, entonces que sean preguntas muy puntuales, que sean preguntas enfocadas al área de producción, que sean preguntas enfocadas a todo lo que puede aportar para su conocimiento y crecimiento personal en esto de la industria de la producción musical. Yo no tengo nada más que decir, creo que tiene bastante más que decir que yo. Entonces, Vincent, the all yours. Thank you for being here.
Any questions?
Well, first I have to say I'm a big fan of you, because no, Yasu, yeah, simply the project you were with Martin Wire at Heaven 17. And I want to ask you, what kind of production technique did you use?
I think the production technique that we've used has changed, tremendously over the years. It's when I first started recording, we were recording in an 8-track analog studio with an 8-track analog tape machine. Obviously now everybody's using Logic or Pro Tools. So it's just been an ever-changing environment. And I think for me, it's because I'm interested in that kind of stuff. You're learning something new all the time. So I just recently went from analog to digital, for instance, and it was a long learning curve, but at the same time, it was a very interesting one for me.
¿Alguien más tiene una pregunta? Si siente que necesita traducción, podemos ayudarles también con eso, no hay ningún problema. No se corten. Venga.
Hi, I'm a big fan of yours also. I was wondering, how do you tackle your sound design? What's the process involved?
Well, it depends on the project, but what happens firstly is that, firstly we have to write the song. And that's the most important thing for us. It's the melody, it's the chord progression, it's the lyrics. And then it's the production work in the studio. The way I like to work is just experiment, really. I'm very fortunate to have quite an interesting studio. With lots of interesting old analog gear, which mostly is unpredictable. So, I decide in my head, okay, this song needs a brass sound, then I'll mess about with my modular synthesizer, and something completely different will happen. I always have something in mind, and then invariably it doesn't happen that way. And because it's very old analog equipment without any memory, it hopefully means that every time I come up with a sound or a production idea, it's something new. I don't just go back to my presets and say, oh yeah, that one always works. So it's experimentation is my joy and key.
Welcome to Mexico City.
Thank you.
Yes. We recently found out that you changed your studio. It used to be in Maine.
That's correct.
And before that in Jersey. And now it's in Brooklyn, I believe. is there a particular reason why you changed your studio besides just personal reasons, or is there anything that you try to incorporate now that you couldn't before?
Well, the studio in Maine was in the woods, it was in the countryside. It was very beautiful, and I really enjoyed working there. But my wife decided that we should move back to New York. So it was that reason. But what was interesting for me was that the space in Brooklyn was much smaller. So we really had to think about we had to really redesign the studio to incorporate all of the equipment that I had in a smaller space. So unfortunately, my brother, who's basically a bit of a genius, kind of guy, you know, one of those techie guys. So he redesigned the studio, and we managed to squeeze in probably the same amount of equipment in half the space, but it was all about rewiring stuff and really thinking about the design of the studio to make it work. And as it turns out now, the studio, I think, is a better space for me, to make it practical.
Right.
I'd like to make a question, like, you know, to start doing this. Which, now that you moved the studio and talking about this, which would be for you the most important, the most creative gear, the one that you're more attached to the studio, or use it for?
Well, I don't know. I mean, you know, the setup I have at the moment is I use Logic as my main sequencer and recording. We decided this time around, because of the space limitations, to get rid of the desk completely. So there's no mixing desk in the house. It's just a mouse, and we have SSL 80D converters throughout the studio. But what it means is that I can actually have 96 analog inputs all at once at the same time. So there's no patch bay. Everything's done via the Mac, and it's proved to be a very practical. It means that, you know, I think, okay, I'd really like to use that very obscure synthesizer over there, rather than me have to spend half an hour finding the right cables. You know, I just use the mouse and there it is.
Hello. Why you didn't tour with the PCMD project, and are you planning another album?
The reason I didn't tour with Martin for that particular project was because Martin was involved in some other band. So he got tied up with that, and I'm sure that he'll be doing that for the next 2 years. But as regards to making the new record, I myself am working on a new EDM record, and but I'll be working with various remix guys and DJs. So I mean, that whole thing sparked an interest for me in that genre. I didn't know anything about it before I worked with Martin, and so I'm hoping to carry on and do some more work in that field.
Hi, Vince.
Hi.
I'd love to hear about your songwriting process, and specifically about the the first spark of creativity, the first idea for a song, where you think that comes from. If there are certain processes or situations that you'd like to get yourself into to get into that creative kind of vibe, just about your writing process in general.
It's I don't know. I mean, I started writing. I wrote my first song, I think, when I was 15, and it was it had C, F, and G in it, and that's pretty much stayed the same for the last 30 years. No, I'm kidding. No, I don't know. I mean, when Andy and I, my partner, write together, basically neither of us have any idea of what we're going to do. So we'll go into a room with just a guitar or a piano. We never use synthesizers or drum machines to write songs because it's all about melody. And if there were a synthesizer there, I would get sidetracked and go off on some tangent. So we try and just concentrate on the melody. We usually record our melody ideas into a little microcassette machine. And we tend to work in kind of 4 or 8 or 16 bar sections. So I'll play some chords on the guitar, and we'll come up with a little tune, and then we'll repeat the process over and over again. And then at the end of that period, we'll try and put bits together, and we decide, okay, you know what, this bit here, that will work as a bridge. That sounds pretty good. This bit we can repeat many times, so it's probably going to be a chorus. And then once we have the arrangement worked out, Andy will go away and work on the lyrics. I'll go into the studio and start working on the actual musical production, musical arrangement, I should say. So we've always done it that way. You know, it's, and what's great is that, as I say, it's like you go in there with no idea at all, and then, you know, and I don't know how it happens, but the miracle is you come out with a song. It's like, you know, it's weird. I love it.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
There's a question here.
It's me again. How is your relation with Martin Ward? It was a surprise for me, the darker thing of that project. And I really love it. How the ideas came from this?
Well, what happened was with Martin, because I met Martin. Martin produced one of the Erasure records. He produced SAE, and that was the first time that we met him. And he and I kind of, you know, got on really well. And he was asked to do some music for a special museum, which was opening in Sheffield, which was all about sound. And they were messing about with this 3D sound installation. And he was asked to compose music for that, so he got me involved. And it was really just a case of writing music to demonstrate the sound system. So it wasn't really songs or anything, it was like effects. And it was just great, because you know, you could do like crazy things with sound, make it bounce all over the room, just for sonic effect. And so that started our relationship, and then Martin started doing also music for exhibitions, for installations. And then whenever he runs out of ideas, I get the email.
No sé si alguien más tenga una pregunta. Les digo si podemos enfocar las preguntas a la parte creativa, de producción. Va a ser más interactivo esto.
Well, I don't know if I can do that. No, I was just wondering, because you were mentioning about how you work on different parts of a song when you're with Andy. And given that you've been such an important influence in music, in pop music and electronics, I just wonder, could you define what is a pop song, or what are the elements that make a pop song?
Well, for me, personally, I mean, it's very, you know, who knows?
Yeah.
For me personally,
Yeah.
I like songs that have some kind of emotional twist in them. So it could be the melody. I mean, you can have a very straightforward, you know, melodic kind of tune, melodic kind of chord progression. But if there's some kind, there's a twist in it somewhere that jars your emotions, that for me is the greatest pop song ever. It could be the lyrics even. I mean, it could be just this really straightforward melody with something very jarring in the lyric. But it has to have that little emotional twist, I think. They are my favourite kinds of songs.
Hi, Vince.
Hello.
I know your webcam is alive again, so I wonder, why did you decide to share this with the world? What's happening there inside? Why?
I don't know. I mean, the thing is, with, you know, when you start a web page, you know, the way to get people to visit your web page is something that has to be changing all the time, apparently, so I'm told. So my wife had this brilliant idea of, let's put just a webcam in there, which is great, right? It's, you know, it's funny, but then you forget that it's there, and then you realise that you've been picking your nose for like 10 minutes, and you go, oh shit, and you have to check the web, you know, check the web page. But no, it's just, it was just for a bit of fun, really, you know, and some people seem to like it. You know. It's a way of my wife keeping an eye on me.